Well, we're now joined by Bradford Bulls head coach Brian Noble. Brian, you've had a chance to review the Doncaster game. Have you picked up on anything else from that performance, or are your views, still subscribing to the same as when we last spoke?
Very similar. Clearly, you pick a couple of things up that you need to rectify for either individuals or a unit in the team or the team itself, and we did that, which we'll work on this week. But I think the exciting thing is we've got the prospect of a Super League club coming to Odsal, and we need to test our ways against them as well. We've got a game against Dewsbury on Sunday, which is important to us for the selection of the team for the following week. So there'll be a couple of people playing that need to show us what they've got. So it makes it an important fixture on Sunday.
When you look at the fitness of the team in 2025, Brian, it looks really positive, with the players able to match those demands, especially when you look at how tough it was at Odsal in the mud and the relentless driving rain.
Yeah, well, some of us are experienced enough to know that when you're playing rugby league in January and February and March, it can be tough, and it's not so much about your skill set, it's about your mindset and what you're prepared to do, and those are the effort areas. And I think we're showing that we're a group that are quite prepared to invest in the tougher stuff, the little bits of the game that maybe our fans or spectators don't appreciate, but that we appreciate. And they've bought into that, and with buying into that, I think it makes this time of year a whole lot easier, because I can't emphasise enough to anybody that knows about our game is that the elements can change all the circumstances of what you want to do and when you want to do it.
You've started with Eben Sker in the games against Huddersfield and Doncaster. Is that a new role for him in 2025?
Not necessarily. I think it's a role he's shown he can fulfil. What it does is give us the chance to throw energy onto the field right throughout the game, and maybe we want to front load or back load that energy. That's our decision and selection of Greenie and myself as to when we want to have the major impact and when we think things need to change. It gives us that facility. I do like that ability to be flexible and to have a balance within the team of impact and of stability.
When you look at what you've got available, in the forward pack, Brian, are you going to look at each game individually and decide, obviously, well, we might need Eben doing that super sub Paul Medley role coming off the bench for this particular game?
Yeah, that's a great observation. I think all clubs would like that facility. I think the thing with Eben is he's shown that he's competent and stable in whatever role we give him. But we do have players and that can do that job as well. We've got a couple of players in each of all of those positions, which is the luxury that we have at the moment. So I think it's important we recognise that, certainly myself, and I want the team to think this way, is that it's each game as it comes. Each games will be whatever selections we make for that team that we're playing against.
Just on Eben himself, on a personal note, Brian, he really looks to have started the season, very, very lean, very fresh, very fit. Obviously, previous seasons, he's missed pre-season through injury. It looks, like a new player, effectively reborn the way he started.
Well, I think it's just a message for everybody that pre-season is very, very important for any club and for any squad. And what you do in pre-season has an impact of what you go right throughout the year. And the good thing this year is we weren't healthy at the start of last year. This year we are healthy. We've got a lot of people on the training park, and so we've been able to do things that couldn't happen last year. So both of those things are positives, but moving into the season, we go game by game, and the challenges are there every week, because I promise you, if you project beyond that, you get lost in the fog.
Second half, when Mitch Suter come back on, you took James Meadows off. That allowed Jordan and Joe an opportunity, to be in the halves. Are you happy with what you saw with that?
Very much, yeah, really happy. But I was happy with Jimmy when he was on the field. So again, I can only emphasise, we played the majority of last year with one half because the Gaskell was out of the mix and other people were out of the mix then, and we swapped and changed and we cobbled something together. I'm hoping we'll be a whole lot more stable this year, and be able to pick the people we want to play when we want them to play.
And when you look at that sort of last 20 minutes on Sunday, how pleased are you that, you know, Jordan, Joe, you know, putting pressure on your decision making moving forward?
Well, that's what they're here for. So yeah, I have no problems with that. I don't know if you picked up on this, Mick, but there's not much deflects me.
No, that's all good. Brian, when you look at Bradford in terms of that sort of psychological readiness of the team, you know, when you look at like mental resilience, you know, can be just as important as physical ability. Are you happy with where Bradford are? Because obviously there was a lot of boxes ticked in that pre-season game against Huddersfield, and I'm kind of guessing in terms of that psychological readiness, Castleford on the horizon.
Well, I think there are a lot of things that we needed to work on in our game. You know, we sit down as a coaching staff, and I thought the conditions were a huge influence at the weekend. But as we said at the start of this interview, the mindset of the players is very good, and they're coping with things very, very well. They'll be putting the more pressure in the next game, and we're allowed to talk about the next game if that's Castleford. The Dewsbury games are friendly, and we're allowed to project and be excited to that game. But there are things from the Doncaster game that we have to fix up, and we have a commitment from this group, and we have a commitment from the coaching staff that whether we need to improve week by week. And I genuinely can't emphasise enough. We've got a fantastic challenge against Castleford. But it's a tough job. You know, we're the underdogs.
You say there's areas of improvement. Are you able to say where there is going to be that focus?
Maybe not now. I think that's between myself and the players. You know, we had a review on Monday night, and we're under, you know, everybody's aware that we've got to get better. Week in, week out, we've got to get better, both as individuals and as a team. And if we have that mindset, if we keep asking questions of each other, then we'll be in a good place. Should we take our eyes off what's happening next week and look further beyond that, I promise you it goes sadly wrong.
You said after the game against Doncaster, it's going to be an exciting 2 weeks for the club, both the players, yourself, the supporters. What's the mood been like this week at Tong? Have you noticed a bit of buzz? You know, Super League side Castleford are coming to Odsal next week, hopefully in front of a big crowd.
Well, we were away from Tong, our training ground, and we haven't been away from Odsal. But I'm hoping that the sense of excitement is not replicated not only here within the training camp, but within the city of Bradford. There's a lot of good things happening in Bradford at the moment. You know, the city of culture, Bradford City going pretty well at the moment, which is great news. I want the Bradford Bulls to be on the same talk sheets as those, the same chapter as that. I think we need to rabble-rouse all the people that have not been coming to Odsal over the last 5, 6, 7 years and say, come and have a crack, come and have a look, see what you think, see what we're doing. You'll see some entertainers, you'll see some physical freaks, which is what rugby league is. You've got big blokes, small blokes, fast blokes, and bring your kids, because I think they'll have a good afternoon.
We already know competition for place is fierce at the Bradford Bulls this season. Will players, Brian, be given a chance to impress you and Lee Greenwood this weekend at Dewsbury?
Yes. I don't know what else to say. Yes, we haven't selected team for Castleford yet.
Because I was kind of going to say, as a former player yourself, you'll know more than anyone and understand the significance and importance of these big cup games. You know, as a player, you know, these are the games ultimately you want to be playing in and testing yourself in.
In essence, we're still in pre-season. That's the difficult factor, because when you throw a team out there, you want them to start getting some rhythm and some understanding of each other. We've 8 debutants within the squad, and a few of which have made their debuts now. They're new to each other, this team. I think I mentioned this previously last week. And so that has to be a criteria when you're going into big games that matter to the club and performance. But Dewsbury is a great opportunity for some players to show why they should be in the mix for Castleford. And then we'll have the difficult decision, the headaches, if you like. These are the good headaches. These are the ones that you want. Some of the headaches last year was, where do we find players from? So it's a completely different challenge, and that's exciting for the club, and it's exciting for the players as well. You know, I keep saying it's round 8, 9 and 10 before you really find out where you're at.
What does the squad for the game against Dewsbury look like?
Yeah, pretty good to be 7 or 8 first teamers in that squad, or what we consider first teamers. Probably more. So it's important that it's a good hit out for us, and it's a good hit out for Dewsbury. It's important that the players take it seriously.
Is it also a chance for you and Lee to perhaps rest some players and recharge for that Castleford game?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, good observation. You know, we need to be smart as well as productive.
And what would you say your message is going to be to that squad of players that take the field on Dewsbury? I presume from what you've said, Brian, that your 17 or certainly 21-man squad for Castleford's not, you know, firmed and locked in, that there's an opportunity there.
No, that'd be true. It's not. But for all the reasons I've alluded to previously in this interview, you know, we have to be smart as well as productive.
The club have announced a dual reg agreement with Dewsbury.
Yeah.
How does that look and feel for you?
Yeah. Dual reg is an issue for the game. Do you loan your players? Do you dual reg? So we've thought long and hard about this, and we've thought long and hard, and as a football staff, Dewsbury have come to us because they've lost their partner, and I thought they were going to go with Wakefield. So we don't lose any impetus by dual regging with Dewsbury, and hopefully some of our players, some of our younger developing players, as well as the ones knocking on the first team door, can get themselves a decent game of rugby at probably a better level than his reserve grade. But we'll look at each individual, we'll look at loan situations, as well as this dual reg with Dewsbury.
So I was just going to say, Brian, obviously that first half against Keighley, Bradford's recent reserve game, you know, Jamie Gill, you know, Sam Ackroyd, George Rayner, you know, they'll want probably more than playing once every 3 weeks in that reserve kind of competition, which, let's be honest, a lot of the Super League clubs don't take really seriously.
Yeah, we're on it, but that's a game. That's a question for the game and the administration, the RFL, as to what they're doing with how they're doing it. Our challenge is to get our players to play at the highest level they possibly can if they're not playing with us, and I think that the Dewsbury situation helps.
You said after the Doncaster game there was no injuries. Is that still the case?
No serious injuries, a few bumps and bruises, so people are a bit sore, as you can imagine. It's their first 80-minute hit out for a lot of them. But yeah, no serious injuries.
In terms of Guy Armitage, is he likely to feature this weekend?
Probably not, but maybe. You know, we have to see how he goes in practice this week. That will be a late call. It'd be handy if he could, because realistically I'm not sure we would throw him straight into the mix at Castleford. That's not a given in any way, shape or form. If he's healthy and he's practising well, then yeah, we might well use him.
Emmanuel Wainey was in the squad for Keighley, but I'm led to believe his partner had a baby, and obviously, you know, that probably takes preference than a game of rugby league.
Really? Well, no, what a kiddie. Yeah, of course it does.
I presume he's good to go now moving forward.
Yeah, he's been knocking around and not been knocking around, and so we've given him a few days off because it's a brilliant moment in his life. And we'll see him tonight at training, and he'll be fighting real hard to get into the mix for Castleford for sure.
Not sure if you've noticed, Brian, but the new big screen is finally in at Odsal.
I've not seen it. Is it big?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
Yeah. It's very
Does
big.
it work? That was the next question I would ask.
Yeah, it's been turned on, it works.
And when there's a Force 9, will it work?
Well, it's cost the club, you know, significant investment, 6 figures. And I guess the question is, Brian, how pleasing is it for you as head coach of the club to see the club off the field displaying that proactive approach, you know, to that improvement, knowing that, you know, we are in this IMG era, and ultimately, I'm not saying it's gonna, but it could come down to Bradford having a big screen versus another club not having one, and Bradford getting into Super League that rate.
Yeah, I've been aware of all the progress behind the scenes at the club, as well as on the football, in the football department, and I've nothing but admiration about what the club have done and what they haven't done. If we need a big telly, get a big telly, because we'll be fighting hard on the football, and there's no givens in the football side of things, because that's why we play sport, that's why we watch sport, because it's unreliable and you don't know what's going to happen. That's why we're involved, that's why we love it. But you know, game at a time, and it looks like the club have been knocking off a TV screen at a time or a gantry at a time or all of those things. So the progress is measurable, is what I'll say, and I think it's brilliant. I really do.
And just finally, Brian, I know it's a week away, but if there are any fans listening, watching this, what role
Get your
and
backsides
part
off the sofa.
can they play in the next 10 days?
This
It's an
this
exciting
time of year, it's only the movies you can go to. There's nothing else other than rugby league or football. You know, but they're well supported. So I just think if you sit there and you've got that itch, or you're at the gym, you know, that's why you're spending your time. Wherever you're spending your time, you've got that itch to think, oh, there's some good things happening at Bradford. Come have a look, genuinely, because there are a lot of people making great strides. I think we've got a good football team that will entertain, and we've got a Super League team. So the more people we've got banging our gongs and our drums, because Castleford will turn up in numbers. It's got all the ingredients of a throwback game in respect of atmosphere, is all I'll say there. The game itself stands on its own for our team now and for Castleford's team now. It's about today and tomorrow. It's not necessarily about the future, but it'd be real nice to have a big humdinger crowd and a great atmosphere at Hodsall.